In this group of videos, we're going to go through the different parts of the Job Generator section of the Slingshot website. Just know that with website development, the buttons, locations, names, anything like that, they could possibly change in the future. So right now we're just covering it as it is today. To get to the Job Generator section of the website, you're going to first go to the Manage dropdown and then go to Job Generator. Now first it's going to bring us to this Jobs List page. What we're going to need to do to get to the actual Job Generator is up in the top left, we can select on the menu button. And then we'd go down to Job Generator. Now one thing I want to point out here really quick is that Job Generator and Quick Job are almost exactly the same thing. The main difference that you'll see is that in the Job Generator, you can set up the grower farm field assignment for that particular job. Whereas in the Quick Job, it's just going to be, you can give the job a name, set up your product, and then set up your field information. On this one, we're going to go through the Job Generator. So walking through the Job Generator, it's going to be a very much top-down approach. So we're going to start with the job name. And one thing I want to point out here is that when it comes to the job names, your grower farm field names, product configs, everything like that, you're going to want to make sure that you practice good naming conventions, because you can have duplicates of, say, you can have multiple job names of the same name, you can have multiple products of the same names, things like that. So the more descriptive you are, the better. One of the things that we'd like to recommend usually is using, say, a work order number, maybe a date, a description of the job itself, anything like that. So I'm just going to give this job a name, and then move down to the grower farm field. Now, if you know that you're not going to be using grower farm field a whole lot, that's probably where you're going to want to go back and use the quick job option. In this one, I'm going to go down, I'm going to select a grower and a farm that's already in the account, and then I'll make a new field. And here you can see we have a lot of duplicates, so this is where those good naming practices come into play. A lot of these are used for testing purposes. Now for any of these, for the grower, the farm, or the field, you see that plus sign button. At any time you can click on that, and then you can add a new grower, farm, or field. Now only the name is required for each of these, but you have the option to add a bunch of information for that specific grower, farm, or field. Now let's move down to the product config. This is usually going to default to water. You can go through and we can actually click on this drop down, and then we can select any of the previously created products or mixes from our account. And then if you go all the way to the top, we can create a new mix. And then with this mix information, we can set it by either rate or quantity, and then you can see the different required fields. We at least need to give it a name, select an ingredient, and the same thing with the mix itself. We can pick from different ingredients that we've already made in our account. And then we would add a rate. Now, if there's more than one ingredient to this mix, you can go through and just add an ingredient and then keep going through the list. There's also the ability to use RX maps with this. Now here we can select different RX maps that we've used throughout the seasons, anything that's tied to our account. We can also add a new RX map. Now what this is going to do is we can just go select an RX map for upload. What it's going to do is it's going to take you to the file browser, and then you would just go to whatever your map is located to upload it into your account. Just going to pick this liquid, and then we can set the rate column. This map only has one column that's used for rate. I've seen other maps, they have target rate, actual rate, things like that. So just be sure that whichever column that you want it to control from the rate, you need to make sure that you select that column from this list. And then we can select the units that were used when the map was created, set our default rate, and the same thing with those default rate units. Now moving down to our field information. Now this map is probably going to zoom automatically to the location based on one of three things. If you don't pick any grower farm field and you didn't pick an RX map, it's going to go off of your browser's location tracking if you've allowed your browser to track your location. The other thing is, so with the grower farm field, if you pick a specific grower farm or field and then it's going to go automatically to that field location. And then I picked an RX map too, so it's going to go to where that RX map is. Now to start at the top, the field area, that's going to default to 1 acre. You can leave it at that, that's just fine. But one thing that's probably pretty good is that if you were to set that field area as accurately as you possibly can, that's going to help the operator in the cab with things like quantities and so on. And there are 3 main things that we'll be doing with this map here. So you can see first we have it set to our location. I just need to click on the map here to set the location. Typically I will just use the center of the field. It's just a reference point for where the field is located. Now we move on to the entry point. Now this field has 2 entrances, but I know that one of them is locked behind a gate, and the other one, an operator would have to go through a parking lot. So for example, this is the locked gate, and this is where the operator will actually need to enter the field. Then moving on to the boundary. Now this boundary, it's just going to be for reference purposes only. It's not going to be for things like section control or anything like that. It's mainly just used to give a reference of how the field is shaped and where it's located on the map. So all you need to do is just click different points around the map to set different flags, and it doesn't need to be neat. So we can just kind of get the general area. Now to finish it out, there's just a few options down at the bottom. This first one here, this available as cloud job option. Now since we've gone through and used the job generator, we also have the ability to set it as a cloud job. So you can create cloud jobs using the job generator. The save option lets you save that job for later if you don't necessarily need to dispatch it right away, or you can just save it, have it available as a cloud job, and then it will distribute throughout your organization for all the machines that have JobSync enabled. The dispatch option, now that's if you want to send it to specific machines. If you know that you're only going to have 2 machines operating in the area, you can disable this as a cloud job and you can dispatch it to those 2 machines, or you could leave it available as a cloud job and still dispatch it to those 2 machines. If you need to start over, you have the option to just completely reset, so this will just take it right back to a blank job slate. There's also the option to download. Now this isn't going to download it to, say, a USB drive so you can take it from your computer and put it into a field computer. This is to be able to download the information from this generated job, mostly for record-keeping purposes. And that about does it for the job generator. And remember, if you ever need to go through this, and you don't necessarily need to use the grower farm field information, you still have the quick job option.